And welcome everybody, episode 185 of the Between Two Wheels podcast. Exciting. We're live, by the way. Join us next time if you're not live with us. Episode 185 today, we're going to talk about Vuelta a Burgos, some mustache, some masks, some lost fingers, tour of North Georgia. Got an update for you. We're going to have some special guests joining us in a bit. Specialized bikes, the Venge, they're going to kill it off. We're going to have a special tech guest for that as well. Chris Flower, just for those of you. NCNCA gets woke. We'll do some controversy about that. Some winners, some losers. And fear is not a virtue, folks. Let's begin. Let's bring in our first guest. I don't know how everyone is doing, but this is Tyler Janke, episode 185. I appreciate everyone joining us. And before I bring in my guest, I hope you're doing cycling well. It's been hot out there. I did a ride yesterday up on Mosquito Ridge, and there's this place called Big Trees. We were trying to get to some water. The water was not there, so we pretty much cracked. John Novikov and I cracked greatly. But today in studio here, and we're going to wait. Sean Bagley is supposed to join us too, but Mark Tucker, welcome. Hey,
well, thank you.
Yes, I don't see the bikes and stuff behind you this time. You're changing venue.
It's too hot out there.
It is hot. How do you do in the heat? I was talking to Michael Sayers a few weeks ago riding, and he's like, man, I suffer in the heat. And he used to live out in Arizona when he was doing it. And he goes, I'm not a morning person either. So I was forced to ride in the afternoon, and it was just diabolical. How do you do in the heat?
I think, I suck, but I think a lot of people suck more. So like we did a group ride that was kind of a mock circuit race here locally, Wednesday evening. It was like 103 or something when it started. And it was about a 50-minute effort. I wasn't liking it, but I won it, so I did better than others. So
right, I feel that I don't necessarily excel in the heat, but I do better than others. Okay, we're going to bring in mystery man here. It is Sean Bagley. Sean, welcome. Can you hear us? First of all,
I can hear you.
All right, good.
So we got you. My girlfriend is trying to interview a roommate, and she wanted me to just be there just to get a feel for him before. So I just let them continue, and I stepped out.
Gotcha.
What's your shirt say? Bacon?
Bacon helps.
Got it.
It doesn't
Sorry.
help.
Sorry in advance for the vegans.
Yeah, you're going to trigger all the vegans now. So.
Right. Well, maybe bacon bits. I don't know, the vegetarian ones. Thanks, Sean, for joining us. Let's do. I was telling Mark, so we'll do the first. Try to do 30 minutes here. We're live, by the way. So if someone wants to join in,
yep.
Mark Tucker just he's here and he put a comment. It's showtime. So we can show these things on screen.
Yeah.
And if people have comments, they can. Is it a delay? I just now saw it. I mean, come on.
I know. It just popped up on my screen on my phone.
I just look at that. I could just pop it up. So I control all here in studio.
So
yeah,
you're the delay. I got it.
I'm the delay. Yeah. So if people are joining in, if they want to make some comments, be glad to do it. We've got two guys here. They've both gone out to tour North Georgia, the part one, and then they did part two. And we're going to talk to him a little bit about that, and then some possible controversial stuff. I just thought we'd kind of compact it in here. Let's try to do this in 30 minutes, because then I have Chris Flower coming in. We're going to talk some bike stuff. We're only going to all just waddle everyone down in some of the controversy. So who wants to go first about part two, your flight out there, everything as expected? We got locked down a little bit more between part one and part two. Did that affect the racing at all, and did it affect your travel?
Mark.
I'll go ahead. No, I mean, travel-wise, it felt the same as it did the month prior. Mask when you're in the airport, mask on the airplane. So travel-wise, it felt identical. As far as the racing goes, it was quite fruitful for me. I came in part one. I think I finished the stage in fourth place in the points, and fortunately, I learned before the very first race that the three people that were above me weren't going to race in that field, and so I'm like, wow, I'm in the lead all of a sudden, and so it's good.
Did they have an Omnium jersey at all?
They did, yeah. I just got an email yesterday.
Oh, you did?
Yeah. They're gonna. I didn't want to make you jealous, Sean, so I didn't say anything. No.
but did they have one for the race showing who the Omnium leader was? Okay.
No. So and then we did the crit Friday night, and same course but opposite direction, and I thought it was going to be harder, and think it was actually easier for me. Last time around, I made the fatal mistake of lining up in the back of the field and racing combined 40 plus, 50 plus, fair number of guys. And by the time I got to the front of the race, there was a 4-man 40 plus break up the road that I never saw. And so they racked up all the points and got all the sprint points. And so this time I lined up in the front and I went with every attack, and there was only 2 to go with. And the second one I got into, it stuck, and Owen Schott, who's I guess kind of a beastly Masters guy, he was doing it as a P1-2 warm up. There was 3 of us in the break, and I don't know if he didn't care for the third person in the break, but he gave me kind of the sign like, "Hey, I'm going to go," and he attacked him at the top of the hill, and I went, and he pulled for a full lap. I could barely hang on to his wheel, and next thing you know, we're in a 2-man break. And fast forward,
during the road race, we had a little break because there was a crash in the women's field, and the guy that they throttled to drop in the break was talking to Mark, and he was like, "What'd you guys do that for, man?"
Actually, that guy's, his name was Brad, I think Parkinson's or something, or Parkins, and he actually hit me up and wanted to know about coaching, and so I turned him over to Tony Wolf, to my coach. And so anyway, so he was kind of surprised that we attacked him, and I just said, "Dude, I went with it, and I'm glad I did." And so we ended up lapping the field, and so I took second in the crit, and these guys duked it out. I'll let Shaun kind of fill in how the field finished out for him.
Before you do that, what was was there any difference in field size besides the top 3 that weren't there? As far, did it expand a little bit from the week before, or the time before? Contract about the same? What was your
about the same? Some new guys that weren't in part 1, but overall numbers were about the same.
All right, Shaun, how was your crit?
Same for me. I wanted to make sure I started at the front with the hill, because I knew that once you roll over the top of that hill, it's going to be pretty fast all the way around, and then you're just going to be playing catch up if you weren't at the front. Kind of like Santa Cruz, When you race Santa Cruz, if you get way too far behind, it's like you're playing catch up the whole time, and then you gas yourself on that hill.
Right.
So we just played it really smart. All of us lined up at the front, and we stayed at the front pretty much the whole race.
And what was you were race combined, scored separately with Mark then?
Correct.
Okay.
And we knew that 3 guys that were up the road were 40s, and nobody was really too motivated to chase them. So we just all of us 50s just marked each other. Jamie Carney, of course, was the guy to beat, and everybody knew that. So anytime he went, we all went, and Corey McCracken also. Was
Jamie in your group, Shaun, or Mark's? I'm trying to remember.
He's in my group. Yeah.
Okay.
He's a 50.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think he was just a little older than me. So, sorry, Shaun.
And he did the finish. He did the finishing turn a little bit better than me. He knew it. I was a little bit hesitant because I didn't want to crash on day 1, and it was a really fast, kind of one of those turns where you really had to dig your tires in and just carve that turn. And I kind of took it a little too conservative and drifted out, and then he got way ahead of me, and I just blew the finish. But
so did you get second or so on that as well then? Second or third?
I got tipped at the line by Corey. Wow. He slipped in underneath me and tipped me at the line for second. So I got.
Is that your teammate?
No, he used to live in Sacramento. He used to ride with Mike Sayers on the Bicycles Plus team, but he moved out to Florida, and now he's in South Carolina.
Gotcha. So crit, the same as before, like crit, road race, time trial, road race, circuit, or something like that?
Yeah, crit Friday night, circuit race Saturday morning, same circuit race courses before, time trial Saturday afternoon, and then road race on Sunday.
And so, go ahead.
No, I was going to say the road race was a lot flatter.
Okay. Well, I was wondering. First of all, the circuit race, you had trouble on the circuit race more than you did the road race, right, Mark?
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
I did much.
Did it go better this time? I mean, we're not going to spoiler. You end up winning it overall. So
yeah, no, I stayed in the big ring the whole time, and I mean, I think I just got race fitness from stage 1, and then coming back and doing some top end work in intervals. Like that finishing climb, it felt almost flat. I felt that much stronger this last time out. So yeah, it worked out well. I was one of Shaun's teammates, Bart Clifford, with like 2 laps to go. He kind of rides up to me and says, "Hey, let's move towards the front on the last lap." And with like 1K to go, when this climb kicks up, he's like, "Let's just light it up and let's just go," And so I'm like, "All right, cool." And people were dying off and the pace was low. And so I dragged the field in with like the final 3 miles, which was stupid. And then we get to 1K to go. And I just go all in, and I'm up this hill, and I look back, and Bart's not there, and I got to get. No one went with me, and so I don't know, Shaun, if I had like a 7,500 meter gap going up this hill, and they're charging fast, and I'm dying. I'm like, oh man, this is going to be like last time, but I was able to dig deep and hold on. So I think I got 5th in the circuit race.
So maybe maybe was it Bart that told you? Maybe he just wanted you to like lead everyone out and sit on. So suckered you in there.
Yeah. He was a little upset from the crit the night before. He said I freight trained the field when we lapped him. I wanted to kind of like let him know, like, hey, I lapped you. It
was just bad timing. He had just gone for a point stream, and then Mark came by right after he was recovering on the hill. And everybody attacked and went after Mark, and Bart was
with 4 laps to go. I mean, it wasn't like
limping.
Yeah. Anyway, I hope you watch him.
No, that was perfect racing, but it was just really bad timing for Bart. It was just one of those things. He just it's a tough little course. It's not a course where you can just sit in and recover. I mean, if you get popped at the wrong time, you're not getting back on, and that's what happened to him. And I was just riding really smart, so I was able to catch on.
And so how did you end up then, Shaun?
I got 3rd.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now how did that? So
Mark, you talking about the circuit race?
Yeah. Well, you got 3rd overall.
I got dropped in the circuit race, but I finished. I got dropped on the last climb when I cramped really bad. My legs just locked up. So I just finished the last lap by myself and came in 21st.
Well, that's respectable.
That counts for points. Yeah.
He's a sprinter. I mean, clearly.
Right. So. And so then time trial. And Mark, did you switch it up this time? Because last time we talked to you, when you went out there before, they had that 30-second advantage if you merxed it without high dish wheels. 50s, I think, was the limit. So what did you do this time?
So I exact same thing as last time.
Okay.
I put on the skin suit and the aero socks and clip-on bars. My wheels are 55s, and so
shave the arms.
I didn't shave the arms. I guess I should have done that. Would have given me a half a second maybe.
Right.
But I was pretty spent. Like when I sat in the car and we went back to the hotel, had some time to chill, came back out to the TT course, which is also the circuit race. It's just like 3.5 miles out and kind of a downhill and then 3.5 miles back. And I was sitting in the car with the air on. It was humid and hot and I just thought, I was all suited up. It was like 20 minutes to go. I get out of the car and like my hamstring starts cramping. I'm like, oh, this isn't going to be good. And so I kind of just spun out for about 10 minutes. And when I towed the line, I went for it. My legs felt good. And I was almost 30 seconds, 25 seconds faster than I was for part 1. And so I was the next.
Same.
I mean, I beat it by 30.
You were faster too?
Second place. So.
I was 30 seconds faster. A lot of it was knowing the course. We thought the course was a lot harder than it was the first time, so we kind of laid up a little bit, and this time I went all in and just gassed it and got 30 seconds faster. Yeah.
So
going into by 1 place.
For the stage, Shaun?
For the time trial.
You missed it by 1 place? Okay.
Well, I got 4th by like 6 seconds.
So going into the final day, what were both your overall standings for the Omnium? Shaun, were you said you got 30 overall. Were you close to that still?
So I got in the criterium, I got 1 point stream for time where Omnium points, and then in the road race also I got 2nd place in one of the point streams, and then getting 2nd place in the road race, that gave me enough Omnium points to get 3rd overall.
Gotcha.
So and I was.
I was gonna say. So going into the final day, I'm just curious how your standings were.
Yeah. So I had. I was, I think, pretty comfortable to win the overall with my points because I picked up 13 bonus points in a crit, and then 35 for second place. So it was a healthy lead, and then fifth in the circuit and a KOM point in the first in the TT. So I mean I just had to kind of follow the guy that was right below me, that was 12 points behind, so I was comfortable. I was just going to ride conservative. My legs were pretty taxed by that point going in.
Yeah, and I had planned on working for Mark or Bart, whichever one needed my help the most in the Omnium, but turned out neither one of them really did. So I was able to kind of ride for myself on that road race, which was kind of fun.
So so you get the overall then. Mark, you win yours, and was Bart up on his as well as you, Shaun? Were you guys both on the podium? I think, is that right?
So Bart got second place or third place for the both of them combined because he did so well in the first one, and then he got fourth right behind me in part 2, and I got third in part 2. And
Okay, so they separated them out.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So Mark, you won the overall.
Yeah, so they did a podium on Sunday, a podium for the road race, and then they did a podium for the stage race for part 2, and then they did a podium for the Omnium. And so I won part 2, and then I won the Omnium, the overall.
So anything else you want to say about Tour of Georgia before we get into some of the kind of the controversial stuff that happened back home as well? Yeah. I mean, look, it was good to check out the videos, or there's some few of them, at least the pictures, seeing you guys out there and racing is it's cool to see for me. We're sitting here back at home and not having anything going on here. And there was even writer for Velo News was posting up about North America is probably not going to have any racing this year, and someone on Twitter, the only race that anybody really recognizes going on was Tour of North Georgia. I mean, that was someone from back east was saying that, and I chimed in. That's Andrew Hood was the one that were doing it. So I don't think there's anything else going on.
I'm willing to call the Tour of North Georgia the North American championships, and so I'll no, I'll say this. There was the fields were strong, I think, because nationals got pulled off the calendar, and some people had planned, financially and time wise to travel and race somewhere, and I think they said riders from 35 states came out this time around, I think. And so, but I mean, the only other thing I would say is the promoters did a really good job, and I told them that I would be their NorCal ambassador and talk it up, and hopefully, I think this was the biggest Tour of North Georgia they've ever had, and so they're hoping to kind of maintain and kind of build on that for next year too. So
capitalize from the issue that got them all this publicity, and people I didn't know about it before, so that's cool.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. It really was. Yeah,
it's one of the classics now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, Georgia. We've had the Tour of Georgia down there. Do you like racing in Georgia? We talked about the weather before, about the humidity. Was that much of a problem this time?
It wasn't
for me,
too bad. It was like 8. Yeah. I can imagine if it was high 90s, it would have been miserable, but it wasn't too bad.
Yeah, I didn't notice it until we stopped. Like, we got neutralized on the backside of the circuit race, and they just stopped us, and the motor ref let 2 fields go through, and when you stop, man, you just it hits you, and so as long as you're moving, I didn't think it was too bad. But Shaun and I are from the Central Valley, so we're used to the sweltering temperatures.
You both went down and did a practice crit down Southern California. Is that right? Yesterday or so?
Yeah.
Oh man.
14 hours ago.
That was the fastest. That was the fastest race that I've done in probably 3 years. It was unbelievable. The first 10 laps were 30-mile-an-hour average. It was just full gas the whole way. All the Legion guys showed up. Rasan Bahati, Rudy Napolitano, all these ex-pros were there. So it was just it was a PP measuring contest for sure.
Well, and everyone's been cooped up, right? I mean, saving up or getting their fitness going. So let's see how well it works. So. Who won? You guys?
I came out of the turn in second place on Dante Young's wheel, and then Bart, my teammate Bart, he came by me. I think I came in like 5th. I just kind of cracked right at the finish, but that's all right.
I just contributed. I contributed to keeping the the average speed up. They did every 10 laps. They rang a bell and did like a sprint kind of mock preem thing every 10 laps. And I went for it. And I got the first 3 of them, probably because no one contested it. But I was I pulled off actually on Bell Lap because I wanted to see the finish because it was exciting. And I wasn't.
The course was, when you say it's a lot like Folsom, Mark, I would say it's almost like a carbon copy of Folsom. You know, Folsom always has really fast speeds. It's the same thing because it's kind of a 2 turns.
Yeah, 2 turns D-shaped and a little wind on the backside, but it was plenty wide and all the way around. So never had to really touch brakes.
How'd you find out about this? And was it? I mean, you don't have to say where it was because I don't want to get people, so it doesn't happen again. But
it's
a regular.
Yeah.
No, it's a very famous. It goes back years and years and years. It's kind of like the river ride. It's their river ride, but it's on a criterium course.
Gotcha.
Yeah. I was going to say you go to a liquor store and you give a code word, and then the cashier go to a rave. The cashier gives you an egg or something, and then First
rule is don't talk about it, right?
Yeah. No, it's been going on for 30 years or something, Shaun? Is that what the scoop is? Yeah.
I guess the comparable would be El Viso. It's just everybody shows up and they have a certain start time and they just go, and then that's it.
You did that recently, right, Shaun? Is that correct?
Yeah.
You kind of just cruising around finding every little
I'm going everywhere. Yeah.
Have race, will travel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, 7 hours of driving for a practice crit.
Right. So that brings in you're kind of a lightning rod for some controversy, and I think that's one thing we'll talk about here. And matter of fact,
too. I mean,
well,
that's
you're not Mark. No. So I mean, last time we talked, you had messaged me, and I'm going to say it now because you posted it on the NCNCA page, the issue with you and your job and someone trying to basically get you fired there. There's that, and then the fact that you guys have been going out to Georgia and posting there, and I know there was some stuff about contacting the board. So what? How much do you want to say, and how much do you want to talk about that, if at all?
Well, anybody that knows me knows I can be sarcastic and a little bit of a smart ass, and that's kind of what it was with this thread. And you don't really think about a smart ass. Yeah. You don't really think about it ever coming back to bite you in the ass until this particular time. I don't know exactly who it was, although I have about a 99% inkling on who it was, but somebody actually used a fake name and fake anonymous email sort of, and emailed my HR department at my work and said that I was traveling out of the country and I was boasting about riding without masks, something, and I got called into the office at work to explain, and they were like, look, you're representing the hospital. You have to be careful of what you say. This is different times, and you just have to be careful what you're saying. I'm like, yeah, I know. I see that now. So, but it was just one of those things where somebody literally had to go out of their way to email my work. It's like, that's just such. Yeah, I don't want to. I'll leave it at that. But it's just. Yeah.
Well, so I mean, look, if any of those people want to contact me and we'll have a discussion about that side, that's perfectly fine. Or if they want to join in and make some comments, perfectly happy with me entertaining that. Or if they want to look, I've been riding without a mask because I'm riding outside, and that's the way I feel about it. They want to contact my HR department, they can just contact me. That's the luxury of owning my own business. So. I feel for people out there, there's differences of opinion, and why did you feel the necessity to post that on kind of the follow-up on Facebook, on the Facebook NCNCA page, bringing it out to light?
You know what? I don't know. I waited 2 weeks. I decided I was going to sit on it. I wanted to do it right away, and I decided to sit on it. And then I just started seeing the way things were going. Our first Keith DeFebvre posted something about our first foray out into Georgia, and there was an email sent to the NCNCA board that chastised them for promoting racing in the age of a pandemic, and they were encouraged to remove it. And next thing you know, the post was gone. And I think that he actually had to send an apology letter to that person, which, you know, it's like, come on, guys. You know, it's not illegal to fly. It's not illegal to fly. And if it was, we wouldn't have been able to go. They had sanctioned racing in Georgia. Just because it's not sanctioned in California doesn't mean that we did anything wrong. And I'm a nurse, and that was part of where the controversy came, because they thought that I might be endangering patients and bringing stuff home, but I don't work in patient care. I'm a transfer coordinator. I work in an office. I wash my hands. I wear a mask anytime I leave the office, so it's not like I'm out there endangering people's lives. So, anyways, yeah.
So Mark,
I don't
why
have
were you
any
not
regret.
involved in this?
What's that?
Why were you not involved in this controversy? Or actually,
you know,
you were. You were part of the person going out there. How do you feel about that then? I mean, you any concern for you?
You know, I like to sit on the front in the races and let Shaun kind of sit in. And on social media, I let Shaun sit on the front, and I just kind of draft off of him. No, I you know what? I'm disappointed that I don't know any of the board members for NCNCA individually. You know, I've like ridden with Eric Camacho, but I don't know that. My concern is the board representative of its membership, or is this a situation where you've got some fringe element of you know, the NCNCA membership that has some juice because our own board isn't, you know, acting in the interest of its members, and it just seems like, I don't know. I'm gonna I'll be Shaun's campaign manager for a seat on that board, and then you'll have some really good podcasts to work with, Tyler.
Right. Yeah, I have an inside scoop.
Yeah.
So I don't know if either one of you want to comment on this, but I think it's also interesting. I'm just on their page there, and they put up a thing, you know, with light of kind of the shape of the world right now, that they're going to start a newly formed diversity and inclusion committee. Now, I don't have any problem with that in general, or at all, actually. But my problem with kind of focusing, especially right now when we're not even racing, they're going to get a council to include diversity and stuff in racing. This sport just in general kind of blows as far as getting people. We're having trouble getting juniors involved in the race. And I know the Williams brothers are really doing some things to try to do, you know, diversity. And I don't even know how successful they are. I don't know if this is where the NCNCA community needs to start really focusing. Let's get people actually in this sport and stop it dying. And then because I mean, how easy is it for us in Lycra to just get anybody interested in this sport? I can't get my own damn kids involved, but and so I'm not necessarily mocking it, but you know, we've got a pandemic, we've got other things going on. And of course, you know, the shape is going to be, and this to me, and I saw some comments in here, and I would not even comment on this. There was this one lady, she had a real problem with this. Either of you want to dip your toe into this controversy I just made?
I'll just say, I don't know that. I'll go first though, because Shaun can pull through. I think
I might shock you.
Yeah, you might. I don't think anything bad can come out of the move to create such a committee, but you know, I think it's a matter of, you know, individually, what can you do? What can I do? What can Shaun do to not just increase diversity and inclusion, but you know, just bring junior riders from all sorts of backgrounds into it. And I mean, yesterday was a good example. You know, Shaun's mentoring a local kid who's just gotten into racing, and you know, took him down to experience his practice crit. We brought two guys. I brought two guys down in my car. You know, one's a junior, one is 22 and had never been in a crit before, and so I apologized before and after that was his first crit.
Especially if that's the fastest crit Shaun's done in a while. That might have been a shock.
This guy's Steven. Look out for him. You know, next year he'll be an elite. He'll be in a Velo Kings kit, and he's got some pretty good kind of raw talent. So, but I think it comes back to, you know, instead of saying you should do this or you should do that, it's like, you know, self-examine. What can I do? How can I be more impactful in all those areas, and then don't point your finger at someone else, but do something yourself about it. So
Well, and
all
it sounds
yours,
like
Shaun.
you're using examples where you too are specifically doing something about it, which I congratulate you for. Shaun?
Well, so I'm going to actually surprise some people and say I'm actually all for it. When I initially read it, I made a comment like I didn't think we needed a committee for that. I thought that was our goal, was to get everybody, into cycling. But hey, if a committee will help, I'm all for it. I'll support it. I'll do whatever it takes.
Well, good. We're on board. Let's get some more people involved in this sport.
Amen.
All right. Any other controversies you want to stir up before I'm supposed to bring Chris Flower, and I'll text him saying, "Hey, join me," because we're going to talk about the Venge and how it's basically gone away. You ride a Specialized, right, Mark?
Yeah, I'm on a Tarmac SL6.
Okay, so you're continuing the term. You're on a Venge.
On the Venge.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I understand. Oh, Chris is coming in, so we'll talk about that. Anything else you guys want to do before I dish you out of this conversation and go on to Chris?
No, I'm
All
good. Right. Thanks, man.
We'll be in contact. Hopefully before you go, hopefully we'll do some more race news. And if you guys do any of those races, we'll be in contact, of course. All the best for you. And if I get down to Central California, I will look you up. We'll hang out. If you come up here, let me know. We'll do a little ride or something.
For sure.
Sounds good.
All right.
Bye,
Take care. Bye. Chris Flower, you're here in the house. Let me join you in. There you go. How you doing?
Hey, good. How are you?
Good. And you know what? You sound good. Got your headphones going this time?
Good. Yeah. They seem to be working relatively well.
Good.
So
I don't know if you heard any of the conversation I just had with those guys, but it was pretty decent. And we talked a little about their TONGA, the race down in Georgia, and then a little bit of issue with Shaun, because Shaun likes to stir stuff up online. So just a little bit of the, you could maybe review that later on. But what I really want to talk to you about is Phil's Fondo. How do you understand that's high on your list this week?
That's pretty critical. That was with the race season falling apart, I decided I would make that my A event.
Okay.
I don't know much about it.
I don't.
I just saw something on.
I didn't even know that was happening. I figured, knowing Phil, he would not have that happen.
No, I think what I did see on Instagram, something popped up in my feed, and I guess it's a do your own Fondo type thing where you can still pay and join. And on the day of the event, you go out and you
pay
ride.
To join? Why would you do that? That's the dumb. Good for Phil. I appreciate him, capitalizing on capitalism basically and pushing that out there and still getting a way to make money, or to bring. I don't know. Maybe it's all given away for charity, but why would you? For God's sake, why would you do that? It's for
charity. I think is the
Cookie Monster charity or something stupid.
I think he does that fundraiser to get food to kids that are in need. So it's a good cause, but I know folks definitely go for the social atmosphere and getting to potentially get a cookie from Phil or whatever happens at those events. So I'd be curious to see. I hope it's not. Curious to see how the turnout is on the. I guess it's not really even an e-Fondo. It's just a ride around your house Fondo. I don't know.
Do you get to pick the own route, or is it? And how much research have you done? Let's just speculate.
I think you've got to try and replicate the route that they do.
Okay.
That's what I'm going with. So if you live in the flatlands and they're supposed to be climbing in the hills of Malibu, you might be out of luck and you have to do a really long ride to accumulate that much vertical elevation.
That's rough. A few questions for you.
Shoot.
Well, we're going to talk about Specialized bikes. Have you watched any of the Vuelta a Burgos?
I have seen a total of 13 seconds of that race.
That's enough to see all the finishes. What 13 seconds did you?
What I've seen.
Oh, okay, I don't know if you had heard
today's finish. Today I saw a picture of the finish.
Yeah, I tuned in right after it happened, and so I could tell you about it. But I understand the gentleman lost a finger. Do you know anything about that?
I didn't see the video of that, but I did see a picture, not of the finger, but of just kind of like a headline from CyclingNews, and looked like they had crashed into a guardrail, and maybe his finger was on the hoods, and that got wedged in there somehow.
Yeah.
Matt, was that stage one?
I think so. Yeah.
God, imagine that being your first day back into racing and you lose a finger.
Right. I'm going to show this here. Let's see if we can zoom in here. I'm not flipping you off, but I have a finger here that was cut off as a kid, and they sewed it back on. It's got actually 2 fingernails kind of in there now. It's a little weird situation. Hey, and then side note, my law partner just settled the case. I mean, we're talking 7 digits settlement. I don't get to see any of that, but and it has to do with a cut off finger. So it can be lucrative or it can be just a pain like me. So the kid lost a finger. It's not the worst thing in the world. I mean, let's be honest.
It seems like you may want to reevaluate the contract you've got with your partner if you're not getting anything out of it.
Right. No, he does his thing. I do my thing. It's not a bad situation. I live my life. He lives his life a little better, a lot better. So
what's going on with the Tour Burgos? I know Gaviria won day 1 or day 2. He won day 2.
No. Yeah. I think you're right. Well, or 3, 2. You're right. 2. Mustache Man, Grosschartner won stage 1. They did this like 12 mile. They came in, they do like a 1.5K climb, and then they drop down and they do a loop, and then they come back and they do that one again. And they hit it, the teams are all, jockeying for position, and Bora Hansgrohe's Felix Grosschartner takes off, and he has a little bit of a gap, and he's like, it's like a kilometer, and it's a steep little, it's a Valverde hill, right? It's perfect.
Okay.
He has a little gap, and about halfway up, he has a bigger, and he just keeps extending it, and no one knows how to chase, I guess. And he easily won with a mustache. I don't think they've had a mustache win there since the 70s, if even then. But it was pretty impressive. And Valverde was like 3rd or so it was good for him. And then Gaviria, and the next day comes in there and they're flying super fast into the finish, and he kicks. It's kind of a roundabout, and a bunch of guys go straight. Some go right, go the correct direction. And and I think Sam Bennett was fine. It was Sam Bennett, DeMar, and Giacomoto, or I don't know, whatever that guy's name is. One of those Italian guys. And then Gaviria just killed him outright. So it was pretty impressive.
Yeah, it looked like in that sprint, he was the only guy that knew it was the finish, and he kind of had a pretty good effort. And then he it almost looks like it looked back like, am I a lap early? What's going on here?
Well, and I think that's kind of it's almost, and I didn't get to see full, I read today, it almost sounds like Sam Bennett had a similar situation where everyone crashed and he just kept going. And then he's looking around and he's like, I guess I have the win, almost like that. But the real story of the race, though, is Evenepoel, Remco.
Yeah.
And his win yesterday. I did see that, like the last 4 or 5K. Carapaz is bobbling off there. Yates is having trouble. Chavez is doing fine. And he's up there, and he being Remco. And then he just rides, and he rides everyone off his wheel. And then there's a super strong headwind. And maybe that's it. I mean, the day 1, he had been out in the wind, and the whole field, he was off in the front, and the whole field is getting shattered behind him. He's solo, 20, 30 second gap. He's just holding it out there for quite some time. And the whole field is like in segments, like you'd see in early season classics racing. And finally, he turns his corner that doesn't have the same wind, and he just sits up. Dude is impressive. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, if you look at the guys he beat, I'm pulling up the results here, but my thing keeps reloading. I mean, he beat some of the top climbers that are out there right now. So it's like,
yeah.
What does that mean for his Grand Tour aspirations? Or is he going to be kind of a jack of all trades kind of guy? I mean, he's beating George Bennett was the closest guy at 18 seconds.
George Bennett
he beats Landa, Chavez, right. Crushed Fabio Aru. I mean, there's a lot of guys on there that are solid climbers that have done well in big events.
Yes.
So, and it's not like guys are that far away from reaching peak form. It's not like a Grand Tour is several months away. They're just around the corner. So.
Right. So, we have Strade Bianche coming up here on Sunday. And part of the thing has always been, you'd mentioned this, and I read it again today, where Sagan is kind of, look, this would be a great race for him, but he always comes off at like some altitude camp. Just the time it's at, it just doesn't work for him. Maybe, but right now there's really none of those typical excuses, because if you're prepping for the Tour or any of these else, you should be looking pretty good. So Remco, I mean, I don't know what, look, I think Sayers had talked to me about this, and he's like, these younger guys, it's more and more, you see Pogacar, right? You're not waiting for him to come in. Bernal, you're not really waiting for them to make their, we're going to give them 5-10 years. And then, no, they're like now, and they're doing it. And Remco's a bigger guy, but he's short, but he seems a little more stocky. He almost looked like a Cavendish climbing up there. Speaking of which, he was in the race today. I don't see that he did anything. And then let's talk about bikes, if you're okay with that.
Well, wait, I got a question about Strade Bianche. Is that Sunday or is that tomorrow?
I believe
tomorrow for some reason.
Tomorrow, because you're right. I think it's the 1st.
That would have ruined my morning if I skipped it. I'm glad I checked.
You told me today you've watched 13 seconds of bike racing.
Well, that's because it's not,
Strade
Bianche.
All right.
Bianche? I have no idea how to watch it other than Tiz. I think I've griped about that all week. It seems like to actually catch a good season of bike racing these days, you need to drop $500 in streaming services.
Multiple. It's worse than, I've got Disney, I've got Peacock, I've got Netflix, I've got Amazon, but they're all kind of like little dollar ones. It's not a big deal. And Bike and Flow is, to me, too expensive. And then, NBC, all these other ones. So yeah, it's Tiz the season.
Yeah. I mean, otherwise you're dropping Flow Bikes, Fubo Sports, GCN Pass, NBC Sports, your Eurosport VPN. It's just, I guess I'll watch pirated feed.
Well, so I have a VPN now, so I might be able to see some of those that I normally wouldn't have. Someone needs to go in. Look, we talked about you and I were texting about this, and cycling doesn't have revenue sharing, but what's also makes it difficult, the NBA. Okay, so you have the NBA that's just one network takes it, and then you can revenue share. That's got to be difficult when you have multiple of the same country. Having the access to video or to be able to show the bike race. And then you've got all these different countries. So revenue sharing has got to be much more difficult. And I think you have to have like a global, UCI, whatever, and then they could share it out. Something. It doesn't seem impossible. It just seems more difficult.
It seems like the teams would need to get really motivated. Like if you were to go to the NBA owners and say, hey, we're going to stop revenue sharing, I don't think that would happen. So what you need to do is get the ownership to say, okay, we need to figure this out because, the team managers having to go beg and borrow for pennies from big businesses isn't really going to cut it in 2021. So we need to figure something out. Otherwise, it's just going to not exist anymore.
I remember Vaughters complaining about that, or people were complaining to him about it several years ago. And they're like, oh, well, that's socialism and da da da. And I responded, which he ended up liking, was this is a capitalist venture, but within that sport, it's socialism, if you want to call it that, because it's all got to be shared. But you've got to really think of it like McDonald's. McDonald's is a corporation, but they have all these separate little businesses that it's probably a sharing. You don't get a franchise and then you're just on your own. It's not McDonald's, it's McDonald's, and so that's still all that sharing and. McDowell's, yes, coming to America. So you've got that same problem with cycling, and it's not being taken care of. ASO just takes their money and runs. So whatever. Okay, let's talk bikes. So Specialized, Orbea. You want to talk about Orbea first, right? Wasn't that it? Tell everyone.
I don't know much about Orbea. There's a lot of new bikes that just came out. I'm guessing that they we're wanting to have them come out sooner. They usually come out around the tour. So I know Specialized came out with a new bike. Marita came out with a new bike. Orbea came out with a new bike. Trek came out with a new bike, but that was earlier. Trek came out with a new bike. So there's a lot of new bikes out there, but I think the biggest one that made the most notable social media explosion would have been Specialized. They did a really good job of just bombarding every possible media stream that they could get their hands on, whether it was the cycling websites or Facebook or Instagram or TikTok. YouTube. I don't know anything about TikTok, but I assume
I just said every one you can imagine. So I just thought maybe that was.
I couldn't imagine that one because I never use it.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, it's supposed to be just like the bike of the year.
So
faster than any other bike, and
so Imanda got quite a bit of play. So I hadn't even heard about some of these other ones. That's not true. BMC, they came out with a new bike, and I saw a little bit about that. And then looks like Imanda just Trek kind of exploded 10-fold, whatever, above what any other bike had done on a release. And they have an embargo. I don't know if you ever heard the journalists talk about it. They get all the info, and you can't talk about it till this date, and then that date comes, and everyone gets to talk. It's so stupid. But then Specialized, like you said, blew it out of the water. And you had been bombarded by our friend Coach Nate Dunn about it, lamenting the fact that this was ruining rim brakes or something. Why don't you give us some of the idea? And why we've been talking about this is because there's all kinds of little controversy. It looks like tubeless tires aren't really kind of a thing with it, but yet it's going to be. You could break that down, what that means. Rim brakes are kind of going the way. The Venge, it looks like they're kicking that one as the kind of the Corvair of cars. You know, we're done and over with you. I'm not saying it's unsafe at any speed, but I'm just saying.
It might be. Yeah, so the whole notion behind the tarmac is this new tarmac is they did kind of a combo of the prior iteration of the tarmac SL6, which was kind of the lightweight, comfortable climbing bike, so to speak. And they've got the Venge, which is the aero.
You have one, right?
What's that?
You have do you have one of each?
I have the SL6 tarmac, and I've got a first edition Venge from, I don't know, 2013. So yeah, it's supposed to be like as aero as any bike and as light and climby as any bike. So it's kind of taking the best of both worlds and making it into one. And I don't know if I've got, let me see something here. I'm going to try and absolutely ruin your thing. Let's see if I can't share a screen.
You haven't been paying attention to these shows, have you? The ruin is something we do.
Let's see.
When is this bike available?
It's available now.
Oh, okay.
For some reason, I can't seem to share my screen with you. Can I?
Oh, here, let me add this in, Chris. Just be careful there. There we go. Look at that.
Okay, so here we go. This is kind of like their big ticket here. This is a little snippet from the Cycling Tips website. So this is their what do you want to call it? Their aero chart showing the new tarmac and where it falls on the grand scale of things. My monitor is wigging out over here. 1 second. Yeah. All right, this isn't working as well as I wanted it to.
I'm curious what you're ordering on Amazon. You want to flip over to that?
Oh, I was looking at the headphones. You want to see?
Guess you are. So figure out what you need to do there, then we'll pull it up.
All right.
Now, what is so special about this tarmac that made me want to talk to you about it?
That's a really good question.
Why are you here, Chris?
Yeah, I don't know. Hang on. All right, there we go. That should be good to share again.
All right, there we go.
So this is what I was trying to get to before. For some reason, my monitor was wigging out. So this is Specialized media stuff. So it shows you how much better the SL7 is than any other bike in time. So SL7 is as high and far out on the chart as you can get. So you can see the former SL6 over here. It's pretty light, but it's not particularly fast. And you can see the Venge. That's pretty fast, but it's not all that light. So what do we do to kind of make a better bike? Well, we combine the best parts of the Venge and the best parts of the SL6, and we come up with the SL7, and we put it on this graph that doesn't really have any real quantitative data to kind of show you where it is. But you can say that it's faster than the first generation Venge, it's lighter than the SL5, it's lighter than the SL6, and it's better than the new Amanda, and it's better than the Madone, and it's better than the Veg 5. So it's just the best bike ever. I'm not sure if you watched any of the other YouTube things that went out. I know NorCal Cycling did one where Jeff and Chris Reichert went out and rode the bikes and gave it an honest review based on 30 minutes of riding. But
I only saw their 30-second clip of them going downhill, swapping turns.
Okay, that was 10 minutes of that basically. It was impressive. But no, it's supposed to be a good bike in the sense that it's aero and it's light, and that's exactly what you've always wanted in a bike, right? It seemed like the prior choice was always, well, you can have a light bike or you can have an aero bike. Well, now you can have both. I think the Madone kind of went, not the Madone, the Amanda kind of went in that same direction where they took their climbing bike, which was the Amanda, and gave it some of the Madone flair. So it's also a light aero bike. And I think that's kind of what the engineering direction is headed toward at this point, in whether you're looking at Trek, Specialized, or Bea, blah, 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 blah.
That chart
Getting back to your,
well, before we go, that chart, the way you described it and showed it there, this one is slow, this one is fast, this one's light, this one's heavy, and look, we're going up here. It reminds me of the Disco Stew chart where he's like disco, and it's the chart's going up, and if this trend continues, it's like,
right.
But yeah, that's done in 78. So nice that they put that chart together.
Yeah.
And obviously the bike is what it is. It's light and fast. I don't know about, it's easy to measure the lightness, the fastness. I mean, anyway, what were you going to say? Back to,
so getting back to the message that Nate sent me. So he had sent me a text the day that this bike was announced. What was that? A few days ago, and just kind of commented on the fact that, well, Specialized killed rim brakes. So I think this is the first iteration of the Tarmac that they've put out that is disc only. So the SL6, while it was available in limited form, it was available with a disc, not let me say a rim brake model, and that's no longer the case. And Specialized has quite a bit of clout in the bike world, so them no longer offering a rim brake whatsoever, it kind of signifies the end of that that model, because I don't think it's available. Trek, the Emonda does not have a rim brake. The new Orbea does not have a rim brake. So I think the industry is kind of going full stop away from the disc or the rim brake.
when you get a bike close to 15 pounds and you're able to do that with a disc, I mean, what's the point of going rim? As far as weight, you know, that was always kind of like one of the offsets. I haven't done disc brakes. My concern would be if there's any issues with like swapping wheels out quickly, if you're on, you know, doing racing pros, but obviously if they're doing it, then I guess no big deal.
I mean, it works for them because they've got the ability. I think a lot of the pro racers that do get a flat with a disc bike, they're just changing the bike.
Right.
They just grab a bike off the roof and get the guy on, and they probably deal with the wheel after the fact, because it does take a little longer, and you're hopeful that the rotor is perfectly aligned so you don't get rub and all that good stuff. So in the amateur fields, like if we were out at Dunnigan Hills or something doing a race and you get a flat,
you're screwed anyway.
You're kind of hosed. I mean, the likelihood of you being able to chase back on while you wait for the wheel vehicle, if there is one, is going to be tough. So, and if you're in a crit, you've got all the time in the world anyway. So
I'm always a little skeptical on things because I think, as an example, going to rim, the disc brake may be the exact perfect thing to do, but a lot of times I think it's industry making a wholesale change, forcing you to do that as well, whether that you want to or not. You know, iPhone goes from a normal headphone jack to the Lightning plug-in. Okay, I mean, now you've got to change everything. You got to buy a dongle, or everything just changes, and then it's just they have the bigger charger. You know, I mean, they make changes, and you don't really have much choice because everyone's going to do it. And so next thing you know, everyone's going to go. I don't know how much of that is in play with a disc, or is disc just that much greater?
I don't know. The only disc bike I've got is a gravel bike, and I will say some of the descents I've done on that were significantly more controlled with that brake setup than my prior gravel cyclocross bike, which was rim brake. But those are pretty extreme situations.
Sure.
I will say that when I did buy an SL6, I bought it just as a frame set with the rim brake, because I've got all the wheels and I've got the group sets that I need. So yeah, if I were to go out and buy a new bike now, I'd have to restart from scratch.
Here's a listener comment live on the show as we go. Brian Zimney chimes in, and I believe he does disc brakes. As a racer, there's still a problem flying with disc brake bikes and wheel swaps in races with disc brake bikes. Does that make sense to you? That's kind of what you would. Okay. It sounds like he's saying that on the fly, it's still a problem trying to swap in your wheels as it is, which makes sense. And look, so this would be then Wilson, who owns Folsom Bike, or Jason Graffath, or John Novikov, or maybe even you would say, how about you do tubeless? And then you just kind of eliminate some of that, which I imagine that's correct for the most part. Tubeless has been known to maybe solve some of that wheel flats problem, at least, unless it's catastrophic.
Yeah, no, that's another good point. Is the new Specialized Tarmac comes spec with the Roval Rapide CLX super duper wheel set, and I think they're spec'd to not allow tubeless, so they're tubed only. And
how does that the tire itself? I mean, the bike can fit a tubeless tire, right?
Yeah, but you need different wheels. So the wheel can't accommodate a tubeless setup. And apparently that came down to the amount of carbon layup that they could apply to the wheel while still maintaining a certain weight. And it just, in their opinion, made sense to go with a lighter, more aerodynamic wheel that would not allow tubeless.
Okay.
So yeah, the big push, I think Specialized even released a new tubeless tire last year that was supposed to be the kind of pinnacle of all tubeless tires, and now it's like, well, that's not applicable to our newest, greatest bike. Sorry. So it seems like that might be kind of as you noted, the industry trying to control the purchasing patterns of their customers. So in a year or 2 years, maybe they'll refine this current wheel set to allow tubeless, and then there's got to be a drive to, swap out your now irrelevant tube only wheel set with this fancy new tubeless wheel setup.
So what do you know about those wheels? I mean, I know some people that, look, I bought a Giant last year, and what I did was I was able to buy the frame, and then I built everything up myself as far as what I wanted. So it didn't come if I were to buy that bike from the shop, it didn't come with the group that I wanted. So I made it happen myself. What do you know about those set of wheels, which I probably wouldn't buy? I know people that bought the Specialized and then they sell those wheels and then get the wheels they actually want. But are those super aero wheels? I mean, it seems like to me you can get a nice pair of zips or something that you're going to accomplish the same issue. So maybe you're saying, unless you're the standard, I go to the bike shop, I stick with this. And then next year, hey, I'm going to get the tubeless. They're going to come out with a Roval tubeless tire, maybe. Yeah.
So they're replacing the Roval CLX. So I think you removed the Rapide from the title. I forget. So the aero data that Specialized has on those hasn't really been made public that I've seen. They're just allegedly faster. The only metrics that they've actually reported on is that they're 25% more stable. I don't really know what that means in terms of, so like
how unstable are their current wheels? That's the question.
Well, if you're riding them and you get hit by a side wind, I'd like to have 25% less push. So, one of the things, if you look at the bikes as like a whole, so they argue that the SL7 with the new Roval Rapide wheel set is 45 seconds faster across 40 kilometers in comparison to the old SL6. But that's with the old SL6 using the old wheel set. Now they don't have the aero data for the old wheel set. Of the new wheel set as compared to the old wheel set. So if you were to apply apples to apples, maybe the new bike isn't that much more aero than the old bike, and that's why they're not really releasing aero data on the new wheel set. It seems like they're always big on this is this much faster, this is that much faster, but the new wheel set, it's this much more stable. So is it faster than the old wheels? If so, does that make the old bike as fast as the new bike? And then there's really no reason to get this new bike? That wouldn't be good. So it just seems like there's a lot of ways that you can kind of spin the marketing hype to make this new setup be the most impressive thing ever, even though the old one was probably just as good. Right. With all that said, the wheels are, they're kind of a unique setup in the sense that they're different wheel section depth, front and rear, and they're also different wheel width, front and rear. So the front wheel is 31 millimeters wide at I guess it's not brake track, but I guess at the hooks. And then at the rear, it goes down to like 27 mil. And, if you think about the wheels that you've got, so the old race rims that you have, those were 25 mil wide at the brake track. So imagine looking down and seeing something 31 millimeters wide when your tire is only 26. So it's significantly wider. Wow. And it's also, I think, 51 mil deep on the front and 60 mil deep on the back. So you kind of have a little bit of variability in the depth as well. And I think Envy's done that for a few years with their wheel sets and kind of giving you aero with some more aero in the back and a little less potential for getting pushed by the wind in the front. So increased stability, I guess, is kind of where that plays into is, it's 25% more stable than the old wheels.
You had mentioned that also that something about pros getting preferential sizes than over the consumer. What was this and how did that data get leaked?
I don't think it's data that's got leaked. I just have a weird nuance of looking at bike pictures and noticing little differences. So if you look at some of the pictures that whether it's Bora or Quick Step or riding, I look at bikes in the bigger sizes because that's what I ride, being taller.
Right.
And a lot of the bikes off the shelf have just really tall head tubes, and they're really kind of upright. Even like the SL7 and SL6, they got pretty tall head tubes. But if you look at what the taller pros are riding, they've got something that is obviously a different makeup or a different geometry, where they've got a shorter head tube in the front. And I know that historically, like the SL2 Tarmac was available in a team geometry, which was a lower stack height, because obviously the pros are on their bikes all day, so they've got the core strength to handle a setup like that. And we're going to make the regular geometry a little more forgiving for your average Joe. That way they can wink, wink, ride the same bike that Tom Bonin's riding.
Right.
And I think that's, they used to sell those bikes to the public, but I don't think they do it as much anymore. However, it looks like a lot of the pros are still out riding them. So, it's just one of those things where it's like, hey, some people might want that bike too, instead of having to put on like a negative 30-degree stem to replicate the same fit.
I was thinking here of the Tacoma Narrows Bridge. I remember that as an engineer, seeing the thing wobble around, which was trying to do more and more lightness or whatever, less structure for a bridge, and you're engineering your way into a disaster. And I hope that the Tarmac isn't doing that. It sounds like it's more stable than what the other ones were, but you're always, more aero, less, more light. And I'm sure it's fine. I'm sure it's all fine. It's not going to have a problem. And I'm sure it's much, much quicker. So we should all be buying this brand new bike. When in reality, I was talking to a friend, John, who has the Madone, and he is so bloody fast going downhill in an aero on that thing. And then he's talking about, I want to get the Amanda, it's lighter. And then the reality he just comes up to is like, I could just lose a few pounds, for right now. For me, does this make sense? And you're going, it's always, you see this. It's one thing if you're a racer and you're on the leanest you can be of getting the lightest bike and the most aero, but for most of us, it's probably more of a fashion statement or just the thing to do, right?
Yeah, everybody wants the new shiny toy, right?
Yeah.
That's why I have so many bikes in the garage.
Right.
It'd probably be easier for me to have fewer bikes and lose some weight, and I'd probably climb much better. But yeah, the bike that I've used to go the fastest I've ever done any climbs with is like my old Avenge, which is, by that chart I showed you, just a terrible bike, and I should go burn it in the fireplace because it's slow and heavy. So it just is what it is. And yeah, for us, we're not earning our paychecks on our performance on the bike.
Right.
You'll probably be just fine on your Giants, and I'll probably be just fine on my obsolete Tarmac. And it is what it is. We might not be able to stop going downhill because we're on rim brakes, though, and we'll just be hazards.
It is something to say about rim brakes. Rim brakes on aluminum, pretty good braking surface. Aluminum rim brakes on carbon, I do not enjoy as much. Just a little bit more sketchy, especially if there's a little bit of moisture or you start hearing them squeal. So the disc brake is probably the way to go. About bikes, those that in this local Sacramento area might know Colin Saman, good rider a few years ago, he rode with the Pistachio team, kind of quit cycling, but he's been out doing rides with us again. And he's been riding, just the last week, he went back to a newer bike, but it was like down tube shifters. He's riding toe clips and literal, like over the strap, and tennis shoes. And he's hanging in on these climbs. So sometimes it's the engine, right? Sometimes, I'm saying sometimes.
But now if he was on like a fully decked out setup, he wouldn't be hanging on. He'd be riding away from you.
He showed up with one this last week, and he was riding about the same. I don't know what that says. Yeah.
I showed you the chart.
Can you send me the chart, and I will link to it in the description of this thing, because I want to see it a little bit closer up. If people want to take a look at it, we'll throw that out, because it's funny how you said, they have arrows in a circle. Here's the ideal, and X and Y axis. Are they labeled?
They're labeled, but there's no there's no scale.
Oh, it's like my retirement fund and 7-Eleven knock off a 7-Eleven or something like that. Minimum security.
Right.
All right. That's how you money. Anything else before we go out of here and take off for the weekend?
No, I wish I could take out for the weekend. I got to get back to work, but no, I just happy to chat. It's been a while. Hopefully see you on a bike ride one day.
Yeah, me too. So, well, let's. Okay, so one last thing here, Chris. I appreciate it. We'll check into with you again another time there's a bike related issue coming up. Let us know, and we'll talk to you, because this is fascinating info you gave us today. I don't know if anybody else is excited as I am, but I found it pretty good. It was Nate. Did he pull himself off the ledge a little bit at least?
I don't know. We'll have to see next time he's out on a bike if he's on a disc brake setup just to test the waters. But he's one of those guys that I think really holds on to the purity of the bike and will probably be on rim brakes until he's worn through his brake tracks. All right.
Well, okay. Well, Strade Bianche, who's your pick for the win this week?
Is Zimney still listening? We had a discussion about this yesterday. He was thinking Mathieu van der Poel is probably a really good pick.
I'm going for Wout van der.
I recommended him, but I think Van der Poel might be the guy to go with.
All right, Van der Poel. I'm going Wout. Maybe Tish. We'll go back to Tish. All right, thanks, Chris, for joining us, everybody. Episode 185 in the books. Have a good weekend, and keep the rubber side down. Stay safe.